Welcome to the Up in Your Family Business podcast, where we dive into the heart of family business with intimate interviews, expert insights, inspirational stories, valuable resources, and practical tips to help grow your family business. Our guest for today's Up in Your Family Business podcast is Jeff Boone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Jeff and his wife, Lynette, own Cowpokes, a full-line work in Western outfitters retailer with locations in Anderson, Indiana, and Cloverdale, Indiana, as well as Jeff Boone Auction and Realty in Markville, Indiana. Between the two family businesses, they employ over 50. Is that correct? Their daughter, Mackenzie, their son, Gunnar, and their son-in-law, Caleb, are also active within the family business. Today, Jeff will be sharing his experience and perspectives concerning a very important topic within family business. It's the family relationship work-life balance and the ways to maintain a healthy work-life balance within a family business context while considering the interconnectedness of family and work roles. So again, Jeff, good morning and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you having us here.
Appreciate you being here. Okay, let's just jump into the questions. My first question for you, Jeff, is how and when did you first become aware of the importance of maintaining a healthy work-life balance?
Ooh, that's a challenging question. I got to dig back deep into my years here and see. I think that kind of probably started as a child growing up around my grandfather and his business in the auction business. He was an auctioneer, and he started that business back in the 50s. And so when I was born basically into the business right away. I think the very first auction I ever attended was I was a month old. So my mom dragged me over to an auction my grandfather was having, and so it's always been just second nature to me that we were in the auction business, and I kind of watched him day in and day out really balance what he did. He tried to make sure that he was spending time with his wife and with his family and in his church and everything that he felt was important to him. And so he was really good at balancing things out. And I think that was probably something that I took on early and understood that early and tried to carry that through as we began our businesses.
Interesting. Man, a month old.
Yeah.
That'll get the senses going, won't it?
I guess so.
First you get smacked on the butt, and then a month later you're hearing about an auction.
There's a lot of rattling in your head.
Right, yeah. So you knew it. So basically, you knew it at age 1 month what your life's fate was, right?
Maybe, I guess I did. I don't know.
That's awesome. Okay, we all know that family and work roles are often intertwined in family business, right? So how do you and Lynette navigate the challenges of wearing multiple hats within the family and the business? How do you balance those?
Well, I think it's, I think that every day is its own day, right? You just kind of get up and tackle what's ahead of you. What's on your list, things you got to get done, goals that you got to get met, certain time frames. And I think we work really well together in that respect in terms of, she can be very focused and driven on her task. I'm kind of the fly by the seat of the pants kind of a guy. I know what I need to do, and I try to get it done. And, with a couple different businesses and a lot of different things that are happening every day, we just try to as the challenge comes that direction, we just try to tackle it then, and try to work with our rest of our family and our crew, because we've got such a great crew. I mean, we talked about our immediate family that's there, but from day one when we started Cowpokes, my mom was involved. My grandmother, who's not here with us anymore, but my mom is, and she still works with us every week, and she's been a real important part of just the Cowpokes portion of the business. And then also in the auction business, it was her dad, who was my grandfather, who started the auction business. And so she, again, has been around it all of her life. And so she understands that too. And she helps us with that. And, I think, it's just, as all those challenges and those tasks become part of your day and the week ahead of you and the month ahead of you, because some of these events that you have to go to and some of these auctions you have coming up, you start preparing for them early, right? And delegation, I think, is a big part of it. Having a crew and a staff that you can trust and is going to do a great job, and turning a lot of those tasks over to them. In the past, maybe you tried to do them all yourself, and then as things grew and time went by and you began to find these key people and bring them into your organization, that you're like, okay, hey, this is something that we're going to put on your plate, and then you quickly learn that these people can really do these things. In fact, many times they do them way better than you can do. And I think that's probably the key is delegation.
Okay. So building off that, I've told you before that one of the stories about you and your family that really caught my attention and really impressed me years ago was your ability to recognize that there's a time to kind of shut things down. Work is work. Now it's time for family. And I love how you and your family, for the most part, since you've had your children all these years, 20-some years, you guys meet, and I believe today still meet for dinner almost every day. How do you, when did that become important to you? And more importantly than that, how is it that you're able to be so busy from the time you wake up? I mean, I'm sure it's very demanding with Cowpokes and the auction, very, very busy. So how do you keep that commitment to having dinner together every night? And how are you able just to shut things off and let work be behind you and just focus on your family for the rest of the day? Because I know as business owners, we can get sucked into thinking about business 24/7. Like, especially with today's technology, a lot of us work all the time. I mean, I find myself trying to get away from it, but I find myself working evenings and weekends sometimes, and I need to find that work-life balance. It's a struggle for me, which is why I think this subject's so important, not just for my personal reasons, but I think a lot of business owners suffer through that. So go again, why did you make the decision to make dinner? That's the thing that we do to keep that balance. And how do you shut things off and make that transition into your family after the work's done?
Well, I'll say that to be completely honest, I'm guilty of really never shutting that business mindset off. I think that thing runs
all right
24/7 in my head. I know it does in Lynette's.
Okay.
But here's what I did realize early on is that we had the opportunity to get ourselves together, our family together, almost every night, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the one time that we can get everybody together as a group. We try. It doesn't always happen, but 9 times out of 10 it does, and maybe even more. But it was something that we recognized that, hey, we have this opportunity to get our family together. So let's make sure it happens, right? Mm-hmm. Let's make those plans to get together, have dinner. We cook a lot. The whole family does. So we share some of those tasks, and it's an opportunity for us to get together and just kind of recap on the day, just see what happened here, what happened there, what experiences did you have, what phone calls, what conversations. And a lot of it is work-related, right? And so we don't necessarily shut it off at the table, and a lot of families do that. And I think I kind of appreciate that, and I see how that would be is very important to a lot of families. But, because our lives and our businesses are just intertangled together. I don't know if that's a word, but I think it is. Mm-hmm. They're entwined. But so it's just an opportunity for us to all kind of get on the same page, what happened to them that day. And so basically it's really, reaching out to find out what bothers you today, what happened,
okay.
And then kind of touch on things that we need to do in the future and what maybe some of our goals are. I mean, that's one of the cool things is that our whole family shares the same common goals. These are things that are important to us. It's our faith, it's our work, it's our other friends, it's our other family, and so it's a great time for us to be able to all get together and do that. And so we're really appreciated and blessed the fact that we have that opportunity to do so.
If intertangled is not a word, it should be. I like intertangled. I'm not sure. Okay.
We'll make it up.
That's good. So did you notice a difference when your kids were? When your kids were younger? Did you find yourself? It makes sense now with your children actually officially being part of they've been just like you were a part of the auction when you were a kid. Mm-hmm. I'm sure both of your children were part of the business for a lot of their life, right? Sure. Okay. So as far as the family dynamics, have you seen a change? It's one thing, they're little, they're going through school, but now they're adults. Do you see when it comes to the conversations you have at the table, have those changed much since they've now become adults and officially? How does any change you've seen there?
Well, I think even as children, when they were really young, we did take the time when they were really young to focus on explaining to them what's important to us. What makes us as adults as we grow up responsible? What are the things that we find are important to character development and growth? And so really those things haven't changed. We still discuss those things all the time. It's just different levels, right? And a lot of people say when their children are growing up, they say, "Boy, I just hate for them to get any bigger. I just love this, I just love it when they're little." And I think Lynette too, we always really appreciated the changes in age and growth, to watch them develop into, from children into, to teenagers, and then into they're all in their 20s now, Mackenzie and Gunnar and Caleb. And so it's so cool to see them turn into young adults that really took those things that we tried to teach them and put them into their lives. And it makes you really proud to see that they embrace those things that we tried to instill in them, and see them now interact with other adults and to take on major roles in the business, and it makes you proud.
Yeah, I think about that. With your businesses, I'm assuming that yours and Lynette's principles, your values, your why, what you believe in, I'm assuming those are intertangled throughout the business, right? So my guess is when you were at the table, talking about business wasn't such a bad thing, right? Because through those conversations you had, your kids were learning not just about the business, but they were probably learning about those values and principles. You probably talked about the way business is done, the way you approach work. I'm assuming all those were built into your conversations, right? So that was probably actually a very positive experience. So we can look at it as we're talking about work instead of life. But again, work life is intertwined, right? But my guess is your kids learned a lot by hearing those stories that you and Lynette were sharing at the table, I would guess.
Oh, I without a doubt. There's no doubt that they did. I think they paid a lot of attention, and it's just evident today now that we see them, involved in our businesses, that they really did truly take a lot of that information and put it to good use today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right. So for this next question I have for you, it's around conflict. Now, I'm not assuming you have conflict, but I think most people have conflict, just on different levels. I read an article recently in an issue of Family Business Magazine, and I just want to read this to you. And it says 29% of families report discomfort in discussing financial topics. Nearly half of those surveyed reported experiencing family conflict, and 41% saying roles and responsibilities of family members as the biggest reason for disputes. So it doesn't sound like you guys are experiencing. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. So how do you guys talk about it? Now your kids are older? I mean, here you guys were the adults. Now they're adults. What do those financial discussions look like as it comes to business? Is it pretty is it a pretty open conversation that you guys have? And when you guys do have conflict, how do you guys address that? How do you resolve whatever level of conflict that might be?
Well, that's one thing we didn't really discuss around our kids growing up. We really didn't discuss financing.
Okay.
We didn't talk about any of that, any financial issues or troubles. And
Okay.
when we started Cowpokes back in 1993, and we'll probably get in a little bit of this here with some of your other questions, but we started out very cash poor. We really didn't have any operating income. We didn't know that we needed it, and so that was a learning curve that we had to get adjusted to. And so early on in business, there was a lot of challenges, and we didn't want to put that weight onto our children because they were young at the time, right? Very young. In fact, they weren't even born when we first started.
Right.
But as we got further into business, we really didn't discuss that. Now that they're adults, really there's nothing off the table. We pretty much we can talk about anything, and I think that is, again, it's education, it's learning. It's important for them to see these things that we really didn't know about. We didn't understand that. It's everything from your business finances to your personal finances, and those are things that we had to learn sometimes the hard way in business. And now we try to share with those what some of those hurdles might look like before they have to get to it, right? So I think it's important. An open dialogue is very important. And does that cause conflict? Not really. I don't think so. I think that just being out there in the open for us all to discuss allows us for there's not the surprises that I think some people run into. We being in the auction business now, we see so many times where there are family disputes, particularly about finances, about inheritances, and you have different levels of I don't know how to say this, but you've got. It seems like so many times when we're in the business that we're in, many times we are going into a situation where someone passed, right? And there's probably going to have to edit this because I'm chopping this all up.
It's okay. It's fine.
Basically, what we run into are situations where, like, somebody passed and they have family members that are dealing with all of this stuff, and they're dealing with bank accounts, and they're dealing with mortgages if you have to be paid, and all of these things. And a lot of times there's no will. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there's trusts that are set up, and they don't understand, how all of this works, and probate and everything else that goes along with closing out someone's estate. And so, is that something that we need to discuss internally as family members? Because with businesses, there's going to be succession plans, or need to be succession plans, right? And so I think that just that open dialogue and everybody understanding what this thing looks like in the future is going to eliminate a lot of those disputes and those problems later on. And I think if everyone, not only just people that are small business owners and have family involved in their business, but just us personally, and with our estates and with our things that we think about, what's going to happen when we're gone, or something should happen to us today or tomorrow or 20 years from now, and how's that going to affect our children, and is that leaving them a problem behind? Is that going to create family disputes? Absolutely, it can, and we see it happen all the time. And it's a shame that money can tear, or things can just tear families apart, and we do see that happen a lot. So I think preparedness is very important, and I think that open conversation is very important.
Wonderful. So it doesn't sound like, so you guys don't really, maybe it's because your kids have been around for so long, but so you guys don't really, from what you can see, don't really experience conflict within the family business, within the family?
I can't say that we don't. We do. Yeah. I mean, there's always conflict, right, of some degree. And it's, whether it's, hey, you forgot to tell me about that, or, well, yeah, got a lot on my mind today. I'm trying to make sure I communicate with you well. There's that, there's situations where somebody you feel like dropped the ball, and you try to bring that to their attention, and sometimes that might aggravate them or get them riled up a little bit. But all in all, those are quickly solved. They might be little small disputes, and they pop up, and you just try to take care of them right now, air it out, move on, and that's been something that we've tried to be really good at doing, and I think that's really helped us a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I saw those numbers, I don't know if I was shocked or, I don't know. It seemed, it's unfortunate. 41%. That's tough.
That's a big number.
It is. I know, that's what I thought too. My next question for you is balancing quality time with family and the demands of the business can be challenging. So how do you? We talked about the dinner, right? But that's only one aspect. How do you ensure that the time spent with your family is a top priority? Again, I mentioned earlier, we can go into any day, right, thinking that we're in control of our day. I'm going to get up, I'm going to do this, then this, and I'm shutting off. There are a lot of moving parts with people and processes and things like that. How do you? It sounds like you guys have done a great job. I don't know how you've done it, but it's fantastic. No matter what's going on in the day, we're having dinner together. Now that might be at 5 o'clock, that might be at 7 o'clock, but you're making it happen. But how? Like I told you, I make the mistake of I don't prioritize very well. I need to do a better job of balancing my time. I need to have more time for other things. I need to have more time for, and it sounds silly, but just for reading. I need to have more time for time with Christ. I don't pray as much as I should. I'm not reading the Bible as much as I should. And those should be priorities. It's amazing how much business sometimes can suck you in, because it is important. Our employees are relying on us to get the job done. And if we need to work extra time to get the job done, we're going to do that because we care about our company, we care about our employees, we care about our customers, and we'll do whatever it takes, sometimes to a fault. So as an owner of two businesses and a family, how do you manage to say this is a priority? And I know your faith is really strong. And so how do you make that a priority to balance those two?
Well,
Because it's hard.
I feel like you were reading my mind, because those are all the same things that you just said, or the same things that are challenges to me in everyday life, and I think Lynette as well. You know, should I read more? Should I be in the Bible more? Yes. You know, should I pray more? Yes. You know, try to do a good job at that. But you know, those are all things that I think if you're a good business person, if you're a good family member, you're a good father, you're a good mother, you're a good brother, you're a good sister, whatever. You try to pick apart your flaws, right? You're always trying to grow. You're trying to get better. If we're not noticing these things that are issues with us, or we feel like are issues with us, you know, we're not going to get any better at it, right? We're not going to be aware of it. And so if we're not aware of it, somebody else probably is. And where then does come the conflict? Well, it comes because you're not paying attention to the things that probably are more important to your family members than you realize. And so I think, you know, it's kind of like the first awareness is what are some of the things that I should be doing better. And I think if we're trying to focus on those things and improve on those things, then we're going to be better people to the rest of our family and to our business. So I think you nailed it by just saying it and saying, you know, hey, these are the things I should be getting better at, and these are the things I should be focusing on more. And so those are how you're going to ultimately help your family, help your business, help that relationship between the two stay solid and to grow and to improve.
Okay. We're always told that even though we're supposed to serve other people, take care of other people, we need to take care of ourselves.
Sure.
Right? It's kind of like the thing in the airplane where they say, if you're the parent, you need to make sure you're able to breathe, because if you can't breathe, you can't protect your child, right? Okay. Yeah. So that might be a little bit dramatic, but my point is that to be a leader, I think it's important. Yes, we need to take care of those around us. But if we're not, it goes back to that work-life balance. So yes, I mentioned prayer, I mentioned reading the Bible, things like that. But there are other areas of self-care that I wish I could do better. Before we got on here, you mentioned this morning you went out, you made sure that you worked out this morning. Every day I want to work out, and it's one of those things where it is a priority for me. And it's funny the way we use priority. We say things are priority, but do we actually live out what our priorities are? I do a good job with self-care with how I eat, but I don't consistently work out. You know what I mean? I don't consistently have quiet time. So in addition to those other things we talked about, how do you prioritize? What does self-care mean for you? And how do you make self-care a priority every day? How do you do that?
Well, I think the answer to that really is trying to focus on just having a few minutes to myself. And that to me is kind of get up. I have my little routine every morning when I get up, and I try to make my way out to the gym, which is just right outside our door. And so it's convenient and it's easy. And like we talked about earlier, you know, it eliminates, helps eliminate some of those excuses, right? And I do need to get out there. And I found that I had some issues years ago with my vocal cords, and I spent a lot of time on a microphone, and so I had some polyps that came up, and then I had to have those removed. And during that process, I was brought aware by the doctors that, you know, there's certain things that I need to focus on, and some of that was the diet, and the diet affects your body, which affects other, you know, certain portions of your body, like your vocal cords, for instance, which it was brought to me that one of the first places that your stress goes in your body is to the vocal cords.
No
it causes
way.
tightening.
Seriously?
And tension, yeah.
Wow.
And I had a speech pathologist that told me that, and she, as I was working with her, and she said, you know, hey, here's a couple things I'd like for you to do. One, you know, if you're, you know, acidic foods and Coke and things like that, you know, get that out of your diet. You know, we don't want that. You don't need that causing problems with your vocal cords. And then, you know, stress is a big issue. And so kind of got, that's when I really dug in and said, oh, you know what, I probably should start exercising a little bit more and trying to relieve some of that stress. And I found that quickly it worked. It helped me heal up my vocal cords, which is a big portion of my
it's important.
Of my job. You know,
it's hard to be an auctioneer if you can't speak.
Yeah, and there was a lot of problems there. So we those have since gone away. And I thought, you know, this works, so I'm going to continue to keep doing that. And then what I found is that just getting up and getting some exercise every morning if I can. Not every morning, but most mornings that my stress level started to drop. My clarity was better. My day just went smoother. I felt better. I felt like there was a sense of accomplishment right off the bat. So even though it might be sometimes 20, 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and 15 or maybe a little bit longer, but most time it's in that hour range. If I can have that time to myself and kind of clear my mind a little bit. I don't think about work all that much at that point. I try not to. Put my headphones in and roll. That's kind of my personal self-care time. And then at the tail end of the day, I try to kick back and relax a little bit and just unwind, before we go to bed. Those are the two things that I try to do, and I think it's helped a lot.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I've always been, my father, when I was 16, had open heart surgery, quadruple bypass, and that'll kind of shake you up. Yeah. When you learn, the reason he had that, genetics was a part of it, but how he ate. When he was growing up, he lived on a farm, he had a lot of fatty foods. And anyway, since I was 16, I'm always, over my life, I've been looking for ways to be healthier. And, over my life, I've cut out certain foods. I've have different practices. We have a team huddle every week at our company, and sometimes I'll share words of wisdom that I find in a blog, or I'll share health tips, because there's so much that goes into that balance. Like, work-life balance to me is not just a thing of time. It really is a lifestyle. It's how you live. And, a lot of our employees have kids and they have other demands, and it can be hard. And, we don't always talk just about business. I mean, I'll share spiritual stories. I'll share advice on health, because it all leads to a healthier life balance, and it leads to more productivity. And the better we feel physically and spiritually and mentally, the better we'll perform, and the better we'll navigate this thing called life. So I think that's really good that you find time for that. If you don't mind, just give us a glimpse into your life. What time do you wake up in the morning?
All over the board. My wife's she'll be laughing when she hears this, because sometimes it's in 6 o'clock hour, sometimes it's 7 o'clock hour. Usually not any later than that, but sometime in that 6 to 7 o'clock hour. I want to get myself to where I'm doing a little bit earlier, getting after a little bit earlier, and spend a little bit more time doing some things like we talked about, reading a little bit more. Because usually what I find is I'm running all the way to the last second, before I need to get out the door and head off. And so I push it a little bit there. But no, it's I'm not real super structured. Like I said before, I'm a little kind of fly by the seat of my pants kind of a guy. All right. I would never have guessed that. Not
because it's. I mean, you're laid back. I mean, you're easygoing. But I figured you were just an easygoing, laid back guy who had a very structured. You had to, because you have two businesses you're a part of. I would never have guessed that you were kind of fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Does that drive Lynette crazy sometimes?
Sometimes, absolutely.
Because she's pretty structured,
She's
right?
structured, yeah.
How about your kids? Where do they fall?
My daughter, Mackenzie, now, extremely structured.
Okay, so she's Lynette Junior?
There's, you take procrastination, that word does not exist in her head.
Okay.
No, she's attack it. Here it is. Let's tack it right now. It's got to get done. Hey, I'd say, Sissy, we've got 4 weeks before that needs to be done. No, it doesn't matter. Let's get it done today. That's her. My son, he's a lot more like me. He is definitely more laid back and fly by the seat of your pants for sure. And that's I don't know. Sometimes I feel a little guilty about maybe teaching him those things, but at the same time, I really want our family and our friends and our extended family, who are our employees in the businesses, to have that same sense of laid backness, right? Another one of them words I don't know that exists, but can you still perform your job and do it really well, and do it at a very high level, and yet not completely exhaust yourself with worry. I don't want our crew to do that. I just want them to be very efficient at what they do, be very good at what they do, and yet I don't want them to just dwell in this misery of deadlines and just a lot of pressure on them at all times. So maybe it's a flaw sometimes that I'm that way. I know a lot of people, a lot of businesses are very strict and very cut and dry. But I also see, and just because of all the business owners that I know and employees in other businesses and their communication outside the business and you hear a lot of those complaints and you think, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that boss, right? I don't want to be that guy that puts that type of pressure on his employees. I want them to come to work and I want them to enjoy what they do every day. And I hope that they do, because if you're going to get a lot more productivity out of somebody that loves what they do and where they are than you are somebody that says this is just a job and a paycheck. So we try to create that environment and make it fun, enjoyable every day. And I think the results at the end of the day show that it works.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Before we I have a couple more questions for you. Before we get to the last one, I wanted to ask you, sticking with your family, we've talked a little bit about your kids have been a part of the business for a long time, and they gradually, I'm assuming at what point did they express, it's one thing to be a part of the business and they're younger. At what age did they say to you, I want to be a part of this auction. I want to be a part of Cowpokes? Because it's a shame, but not every generation is able to pass the business on. You're very blessed. I forget the percentages, but I think most business owners, when they have children, want to pass it on to their children. The fact that both of your children are in the business, that must make you so happy and proud, I would assume, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So
if I said no, we got problems.
That's true. That's true. That was probably a dumb question.
That's okay.
Right? Sorry about that.
You're good.
Of course you're excited. That's a dumb. So, but at what point? Because I know, I spent a lot of time learning about family businesses, and I know sometimes kids feel pressure, this expectation.
Sure.
And some kids don't want to be a part of the business, and you got to be able to let them be. Do you think your kids became part of the business because there was an expectation, or do you think they just absolutely just loved the business and they knew at a certain age, this is what I want to do. I want to do what mom and dad do?
Well, I don't know that our kids really had any choice in the matter, but I will say this. As we had children and as they began to grow and having conversations with other business owners, so many times I got a lot of advice that was this: don't pressure your kids into getting in the business. Mm-hmm. Don't make that their only job. Make them go on. Make them go to college, live on their own. Make them go and take another job someplace else, because they're not going to appreciate what they have unless they see how life really is out there in the business world. Being an employee, under someone else's, fist, basically. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that a lot, and I think, that's right. It's probably right. It's probably good advice, and I think it still is. And I think for a lot of families that has worked, and as they brought their children back into the business after they went and did something else, there's really good evidence that works really well, and I've seen it work well for people. But and for us, we never really encouraged them to do that. From the time they were born, they were in a car seat in Lynette's, or a bassinet or whatever, and they were, or the car seat carried right out of the truck and thrown into her office. Yeah. And they were in there beside her while she was working in the office, and so we would take them to some of the offsite shows that we would do for Cowpokes, and we'd make a little break room area and we'd shove them in there, or sometimes it'd be right behind the counter, and then next thing you know, they're old enough that they can, barely standing on a box looking over the register, taking money and putting it in the in the register at an event or a show or something like that. And or my son was we're standing behind a hat counter, we're shaping hats, and he's doing a little bit of it, and there's something about a 7-year-old shaping hats behind a hat counter that catches people's attention, but tried to learn, they were basically learning the business as they grew up. And so I don't think I think once we got to past a certain point, and I don't know what that age was, but it's probably somewhere in their early teens for sure, they already expressed, hey, this is stuff that we want to do. My son, was, hey, I want to be an auctioneer. I want to do what you do, Dad. I like it. I have fun. And so, the bottom line is we're blessed, right? To have that. And I know of so many business owners that don't have a family member coming in to take over what they worked so hard to build. And sometimes it's multiple generations, and there's this void, and they're going, we have nobody to take over this business that's our family. And I think that's painful to them, and I'm so glad we're not in that position.
As I hear you describe all that, thing that really struck me was, here we are talking about work-life balance. It sounds like the reason you're able to continue to maintain that is your kids grew up in the business.
Mm-hmm.
They probably share the same values.
Sure.
See the world, a lot of same perspectives. You guys share a lot of the same mentalities, right? So I'm assuming that because of that, because you're in the same world, looking at things the same way, going about your day in similar ways, that probably, and again, keeping in mind the dinner together, it sounds like you guys are just kind of in step with one another, which probably helps maintain that work-life balance now that they're older, right? You guys are all kind of living the same lifestyle, and even now, not just back then.
Yeah. Yeah. We really are. And they may disagree, but I feel as if we are all in step together. And I think it shows, I think it shows. I mean, we hear our customers tell us, that they see these things, that they see the fact that to them, everything looks like it runs very smooth, from the outside looking in, and we all know as business owners that that's not always the case. Sometimes it looks like a total train wreck on the inside.
It feels like that sometimes.
It does. It feels like this. So, but I think if everybody is in sync and everybody's, following each other's steps, I think that it does look smooth. It does work really well. And that ultimately is what you're after, right? Is that you want that. For us, and we talk about this a lot, it's about the experience. We want our customers, as our customers come into our business or part of our businesses, whether it's walking into the Cowpokes for the first time or it's coming to one of our auctions, that at the end of the day, that experience, and they can walk away and say, wow, that was cool, or, they did a fantastic job. They did a great job, and they'll compare, right? They'll compare to other stores. They'll compare to other auction businesses, and we, again, as part of our goal, that we try to embed into the kids' heads, and we still talk about to this day all the time. How do we get better? How can we be better at everything that we do? Because ultimately, what that's going to do is deliver a high-end experience for their customers.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, well, work-life balance, big subject, important subject. We could probably sit here for hours getting insights and perspectives from you and still not cover everything, right? And you have a lot of different, there are probably a lot of books and everything and blogs and everything written on it, but I appreciate you sharing your personal experience. But I've asked you some questions. I'd like to give you an opportunity to just speak freely. So my last question for you would be, if you were to give advice to other family business owners, particularly those who have children, maybe, what a piece of advice would you give them? What would you say would be the best advice to maintain or at least approach a family, work-life balance?
This piece of advice will probably catch a lot of people off guard, and it's probably not what you normally hear when you're listening to other podcasts or you're reading books or you're trying to research the subject, right, about business. But my single piece of advice is to have God in your life. And I'll tell you why just briefly, but if you've got God in the center of your life and you believe in the things that he says, if you believe the things in the Bible, if you believe that Christ is your Savior, and you begin to develop that faith, you're going to find that you're going to do what God asks you to do, which is to pray. Pray about everything. Worry about nothing. Pray about everything, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many things to worry about in business. So many things to worry about. You can worry yourself to death in business. In fact, most of the time you probably won't even get started in business because you'll be afraid to take that first step.
You'll be afraid to fail.
Yeah, be afraid to fail. But if you got God in your life and you pray about everything and you ask him, turn things over to him, say, hey, give me the guidance. Help me with these decisions. Help me with every aspect of the business. And you can pray about everything you want to pray about, any small detail, he's there to listen. And you'd be amazed at how many of those prayers get answered. You'd be amazed at how sometimes just within minutes, sometimes it's days, sometimes those prayers never come true, but there's a reason why they don't, right? And then soon you start to realize that these are the things that I should focus on, and these are the things that I think he wants me to do. And you start living your life in that way. And if you live your life that way, you're going to begin to live your business that way. And things will change just dramatically and drastically when you accept the fact that you're not in charge, right? There's that ultimate power, and there's things that he wants for you, and he wants you to be successful, and he wants you to do well, and he wants you to touch other people. And so we found that that's the one single thing in our lives. Take business and set that aside, but just our lives in general, that has the biggest impact. And there's an overwhelming sense of peace that comes with all of that, because when it's all said and done, it's going to be just fine. It's all going to work out. We talk about that all the time. There's a problem. Okay? There's a problem. Great. Okay, fine. It's going to work out. It'll be fine. And you can start your day with prayer. I try to do that. You close your day with prayer. I try to do that. But he wants us to address these things during the day, all the time. And so that's it. I mean, that's the one piece of advice. If you've got him there, no matter what happens to your business, you're going to be fine. And ultimately, you've got that peace of mind that there's eternity, right? And that's where we ultimately are going to end up. We're all going to speak to God at some point. So we can do it now, or we can wait and do it later. But that is where peace comes from, and that is going to help your business more than anything else.
Do you find? Forgive me. I just want to ask you a question off that. Do you find? I do think balance is a mindset, right?
Sure.
It's not just a practice; it's a mindset. Do you feel that your Christ-centered lifestyle, does that give you a certain level of peace, where you're able to be more discerning and you're able to make better decisions? Sometimes we can get real emotional, and we can get really hyped up and not be as focused, and we can start looking at more of the problem rather than the solution. Do you find that your faith and do you think that plays a big part in your ability to have that balance in your life and make those decisions that actually impact your life and those around you? Would you say that's the case?
100%. Yeah, that's that. It has, and it's grown, right? So I don't want people to think that just boom, I'm not a believer, and tomorrow I'm going to be a believer. Yes, that happens, but I think that our faith grows over a period of time, and I'm so blessed that not only Lynette but both of our kids and Caleb as well, Mackenzie's husband, they are very deeply rooted in faith. In fact, at a much younger age, they started that at a much younger age than I did. And even though my grandfather was an extremely faithful man, that's where I really took a lot of his business ethics and things, because he was a strong follower of Christ. But I probably didn't hold that level of faith then like I do now. I know I didn't. And so it's been a growing learning experience. And so it helps me make better decisions that are there's less conflict. And I know that these are things that I think these are directions in my mind. I think these are directions that God wants me to go. And so if he's in control, he's driving this truck. I'm just along for the ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You keep sharing stuff that makes me want to ask you another question. You have to stop giving me these great answers, because I heard you mention about your kids share the same faith, and I think I alluded, and I think it's true, they share a lot of the same values and principles that you do. You can't help but, in a family business, and I know this is not directly related to the topic we have today, but something you said made me think of the word legacy, right? So I'm just going to spend a moment on that, because I think it's an important word for family business owners especially. Yes, Cowpokes is successful, and you want that business to continue, auction and everything. But you mentioned, I don't want to speak for you, so I'm going to ask you a question. Would you say that balance, that peace that you have through your faith, and passing that on to your children who now live out that same faith and that same balance in their life, would you say that's your greatest legacy? Or would you define it a different way? I'm just curious.
I hate defining my own legacy. I hope that that's what somebody says about me when I'm gone, right? Mm-hmm. So my grandfather, when he passed, we never used the word legacy around him when he was alive, ever. I mean, that I can think of. It was when he passed that we started using the word legacy and said, wow, look what this guy left behind. He started from nothing as, trading livestock and farming, long time ago. And he built went out in this old cattle pasture, and he started throwing some gates and old farm equipment out there. And next thing you knew, he was having auctions out there. And then he conducted thousands and thousands of auctions during his lifetime, and he touched so many people. And I would have people coming up to me all the time after he passed. They said, "You're not going to believe what he did for me. You wouldn't believe the things that he did for me and how he led me to Christ. And he didn't even realize it, and how he touched so many people." And all of a sudden we were talking about that's his legacy, right? He was such a positive impact on so many people that I don't know that I'll have that same positive impact. I hope I do, but I would hope that if you're kind of looking into the future, that somebody would say that the legacy was exactly that he touched a lot of people, and he helped them, and he was a faithful follower, and it's something that that person would want to emulate. That's something that person would want to take and even grow even further. And I hope that those things that we talk about bolsters the faith of others, gives them the courage to maybe do some things that are a little better in their life, and then to eventually reach out and touch more people. I just think if we have God in our lives, I think if everybody did, this world would be an awesome place, right? We wouldn't have the crime, we wouldn't have the divorces, we wouldn't have
a lot of the mental stress,
the stress, we wouldn't have all these problems that we have. And so when we took it out of the schools, and we took it out of the government, we took God's word out, we took the commandments out of there, everything went downhill, right? And it's just so obvious. And there's tons and tons and tons of evidence out there that shows it and proves it. And yet, for some reason, we don't go back to that and say, here's the fix. This is it. This is the fix. This is the single fix of everything in the world. But it's God's plan, and it's so we'll ride this thing out.
Awesome. So it sounds like you don't really think of the word legacy. You just do your thing every day.
Yeah.
But it does sound like you live. It sounds like you're focused on being just the best man you can be every day, the best Christian, the best husband, the best father, the best employer. I mean, you're just trying to. We're talking about work-life balance here, so maybe I'm stretching it here, but it sounds like you wake up every day just, how can I be the best I can be today? How can I influence other people? How can I make other people's lives better? And to me, doing that probably creates a really healthy day and healthy balance in your life.
Those are the things that I pray about. And now, how good I am at it, I don't know. I feel like I fail a lot in a lot of those respects. I mean, I'm human. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm just saying that that's who I lean on. That's who I lean on the most, and hope that I hope each day that I make improvement.
Awesome. Before we end, I want to make sure if people are interested in learning more about some of these businesses we've talked about, you can visit Cowpokes at Cowpokes Online. That's COWPOKES online.com. And you can learn about Jeff Boone Auction and Realty at jeffbooneauctions.com. Jeff, I'm assuming you're not a LinkedIn guy or anything like that, or a Facebook guy. So is there anywhere they can go to learn more about you personally?
You know what? Give me a call. My phone numbers are out there, and you can reach me if someone ever is looking for advice. I'm happy to give it. What good it might be, in business or in life, whatever it might be. I love to talk. Obviously, I love building relationships, so I'm always open to having discussions and talking with anybody. I mean, I've got a pretty much an open door, and people know that. A lot of people know that. Some people might not, but no, I do. I enjoy that, and so I would say reach out no matter what. Whether send me an email or give me a call on my cell phone. I'll be happy to talk.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, but I'll say it's been a real pleasure working with you as well. We didn't talk about Element212 and what you guys have done with our business, with Cowpokes in particular, and in the branding and the marketing. It's been a really good relationship, and I really appreciate you bringing me on here to the podcast. I've never done one before; it's my first one, so it's been fun, and it's been fun kind of digging in a little deeper into my life and some of the things with our family and how they're all associated. So I appreciate you bringing me on.
Appreciate that. I will say, to add on that, thank you very much for saying that. I think the reason we started focusing on family-owned businesses is because we just realized that those were the clients we enjoyed working with the most. It's interesting. We all come from different backgrounds, different generations. But one of the things I see in family-owned businesses is there seems to be it's strange, no matter what walk of life, where you came from, the values and the principles seem to be very similar, why we do what we do. And we enjoy working with Cowpokes. And one of the things I said to you, I'd love to have you on for a future podcast to talk about how your values and principles and what you believe in and what you stand for are intertwined into your business. I know Cowpokes is more than just selling merchandise, right? I know it's a lifestyle that you're proud of,
Sure.
that you got into because of a passion and a love. But in working with you all these years, it is evident that Cowpokes is more than just a store. There's an experience for sure, and your values and principles are felt throughout. Love having you as a client. Love having family businesses as clients because it's just more fun. It's just easier because we have a common understanding and a common belief. It's kind of a cool thing.
That is.
So, yes, but good. You have a good work-life balance. So if someone does call you, you'll have time, right?
I'll make it.
If we're, at the very least, if you start getting a flood of calls, you can be like Mark Wahlberg and just get up at 4 a.m. and exercise instead of 6 or 7.
Careful
right?
now.
Yeah.
You get carried away.
That's right. So, well, listen, Jeff, thank you for being on here today. Thanks for sharing your personal perspectives, personal experiences, personal insights. And again, I've said this multiple times, forgive me to those of you who are listening, but I do think this is an extremely important topic, and I think you've given us a lot to think about. So thank you very much, Jeff.
Thanks again.